On today's show, the Cavs lost to the Houston Rockets Wednesday night, and the thing we're not going to do is put all the blame on Darius Garland. Plus, tell you why I don't think this loss is the worst thing in the world for the Cavs. We'll do that and so much more on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like 92.3 The Fan, my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, of course, sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The Cleveland Cavaliers lost on Wednesday night to the Houston Rockets, 109-108. It was a wild finish to this game. I mean, this was a game that you see, like, it feels like once a year that the Cavs, and really, you know, if you're a fan of any other team, it feels like your team has a loss like this, or maybe even a win like this once a year, where it's just like, what happened in the final 2 minutes of this game? I thought the Cavs played really a pretty good fourth quarter, right? They go on that 19-0 run after they didn't necessarily have things going on defensively and offensively for most of this night. And then they looked like the Cavs in the fourth quarter. And I certainly thought that, okay, they're going to find a way to win this game. I was surprised and give Houston full credit. I was surprised when the Cavs went up by 6. I did not think Houston, Fred VanVleet in particular, was going to hit back-to-back threes. I thought that Rockets team would have folded. Thought it's impressive that they don't. But the Cavs had a chance to win this game with under 4 seconds left. Darius Garland is fouled attempting a three-pointer. The play gets reviewed. It's upgraded to a flagrant 1 because his landing space was taken away, which, you know, is it the most malicious thing we saw in this game? Certainly not, but that is the rule. Like, that, by the letter of the law, was a flagrant 1. They got that call right. We will talk about the officiating in greater detail coming up in the third segment on today's show. But Garland, who entering tonight was above a 90% free throw shooter, one of the best free throw shooters in the entire NBA. He's having a great season at the line. And really the thing that is the one thing from day one in the NBA, he has always been an awesome free throw shooter. Misses 2 out of 3. The Cavs, instead of having the opportunity to, you're kind of thinking, okay, well, worst case scenario, he's going to make 2 out of 3 and the Cavs will be tied with the ball and a chance to win. Instead of, he misses 2 out of 3, so now they're down 1. They still have the ball and a chance to win. They obviously do not. But I don't think that anyone necessarily had him missing 2 out of those 3 free throws on their bingo card on Wednesday night. And what I certainly did not have on my bingo card wasn't just, you know, the final sequence of free throws, but the fact that Darius Garland missed 5 free throws in one night. That has never happened before in his career. As I mentioned, he's been a really, really good free throw shooter the entire time he's been in the NBA. He's never had a game where he's missed 5 free throws in one game in the regular season. I didn't look at his playoff game logs, but I looked up and down all of his game logs. He's never missed 5 until Wednesday night. So that obviously is something that is uncharacteristic. And can you put blame on Darius Garland for the Cavs losing this game? Sure, because he's the guy that was on the free throw line with a chance to put the Cavs ahead and then still have the ball and maybe go up by 3 because the Rockets would have fouled again to try and get the ball back. Sure, you can put blame on him there. But I think that there were a lot of other things that went wrong in this game that led to the Cavs even being in that situation. Like, they missed a ton of what I thought were pretty good looks on Wednesday night. Their shot quality wasn't the best we've seen, but it wasn't the worst we've seen. Like, I think that their shot quality probably spoke to a game where they should have scored about 120 points instead of 108 points. They missed a lot of open three-pointers. Donovan Mitchell didn't have a good night from beyond the arc. Sam Merrill didn't have a good night from beyond the arc, which is a little more common than the Cavs certainly would like it to be. But the Cavs went 13 of 41 from 3. They shot 31% from beyond the arc. They're a team that I don't want to say is built on shooting or reliant on shooting, because when they're at full strength, and obviously they weren't, like Evan Mobley didn't play in this game. Karis LeVert didn't play in this game. Isaac Okoro did not play in this game. And those are three big parts of this team, particularly Evan Mobley. Like when Evan Mobley is not out there, the Cavs are a different team on both ends of the floor. But I don't think that they are a team that is overly reliant on the three-point shot. I don't find that to be what they are. I think they're a team that is capable of blowing teams out because of how good they are at it. But I think that they have the ability to win in a multitude of ways, some of which they can find a way to win. Like that's what they almost did. They almost found a way to win this game, despite the fact that they had a really bad night shooting from beyond the arc. It happens. I think that this is a loss that I don't find to be concerning. I thought that there are certainly some things that you could look at and say, yeah, the Cavs should have done that better, could have done this better. Like rebounding, for example. They were not great on the defensive boards. Do I feel as if that's a little bit different if Evan Mobley plays? Probably. I think that the Cavs probably do a better job keeping Houston off of the offensive glass, where the Rockets had 20 offensive rebounds in this game. That said, the Rockets are the best rebounding team in the NBA, and the Cavs had 20 offensive rebounds. So I think they did a really good job there creating second chance points. But overall, I didn't think that the Cavs played good enough defense for half of this game. The first quarter, I did not think they defended well. The third quarter, I did not think they defended well. Fourth quarter, they were awesome. Second quarter, they were pretty good. And then just throughout the night, offensively, they didn't get enough shots to fall. And that happens. You can put this on Darius Garland if you want. I don't necessarily think that's the route to go. And I know that there are people, and this might just be a small, loud minority of people, but there are people that are, not being clutch because he missed some free throws. Relax. One game does not define who Darius Garland is as a basketball player. Really, not even a game. Like Darius Garland had a fine game. He just missed free throws. Had 26 points. He was good. Made some big shots, like that three-pointer in the fourth quarter that put the Cavs in front. Everyone's going to want to forget because he missed free throws. And I get it. But one trip to the line or one bad night at the line, we'll call it a bad night at the line. He was 3 of 8. Totally fair. That doesn't define who he is as a clutch player, as a basketball player, any of that. Darius Garland has been one of the best players in clutch time in the NBA all season long. He is averaging the 9th most points per game in clutch time. And the way the NBA defines clutch time is if the game is within 5 points in the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and or overtime. So Garland is 9th amongst players that have played at least 15 clutch games. Garland's played 17, I believe, but I just said it's 15 for, to give to weed out some super small sample sizes. So Garland's 9th in points per game. Of the 8 players ahead of him, I should say, and Donovan Mitchell is 10th, to be clear here too. So it's not as if he's been bad in these situations. Of the 8 players ahead of Darius Garland, none of them have a higher shooting percentage. Garland's points aren't higher because he's not taking a ton of shots in those instances. And in some of these clutch games, the Cavs might be tied with 3 minutes left and go on an 8-0 run, and then it's clutch time stops. So buckets then don't count at that point. But Garland's been great when the game has been on the line all season long. And I think with the season he's had, where he has played, to me, not just at an all-star level, he's played at an all-NBA level this year. I think the guy deserves a little grace. He missed some free throws. It happens. Would you prefer it happen in a moment that doesn't necessarily cost the Cavs a game? Sure. But you know what? They're also 36-7. If they're going to lose a regular season game in January, so be it. This game is not going to be one. I very much doubt that on April 14th or whatever the final day of the regular season is, I very much doubt that we're going to look back and say, the Cavs didn't get the 1 seed because Darius Garland missed a couple of free throws. I just don't think that this game ultimately is going to have a gigantic effect negatively on the Cavs in any way, shape, or form. I think that they'll bounce back fine from this. I didn't think that they played bad. It just wasn't their best game. And mostly because they missed shots that we're used to seeing them make. And that's okay. That's going to happen. The fact that they lost a 1-point game on the road to a team that is second in the West is not the end of the world. Darius Garland missing free throws. not that big of a deal. It's one game, it's one loss. Everything will be okay. In fact, I actually think this was a really good experience for the Cavs. And I'll tell you why next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help to manage stress, improve sleep, communicate more effectively, but finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a pretty busy schedule that you might have certainly can be a challenge. Well, that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider, and it makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. 3 important things when you're looking for therapy. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours. That's if you know how things work in the world of medicine, within 48 hours is really, really good. And it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans. And for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. And as a listener of Locked On Cavs, you can get 80% off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA. Enter promo code SPACE80 and you will match with a licensed therapist today. Again, that is Talkspace.com, TALKSPACE.com/LockedOnNBA, LOCKEDONNBA. And again, enter promo code SPACE80, SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code SPACE80. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed. And also make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter because it is your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com. And start your day with the all-new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. So the Cavs lost this game. It's a road game. It's against the number 2 team in the Western Conference. It's a game that the Cavs should feel like they should have won. It's a game the Cavs should feel like they could have played better in. It's a game that the Cavs, I think, probably needed to. I'm not saying that they needed to lose this game, right? Like they've talked about, well, you'd rather learn through wins than losses, and that is most definitely true. But this is something that has been a rarity for the Cavs. Because they've been so good and they're 36-7. This loss doesn't mean they're suddenly not elite. Like they're still really, really good. But because they've been so good, they haven't played in a ton of these close games you need to execute down the stretch, particularly on the road. I went back through their schedule. The last game that I could find where the game was not decided in the final 30 seconds or so for the Cavs on the road was the game, their first loss of the season in Boston. Since then, all their road games that they've won have, been comfortable wins. The road games they've lost, like at Miami, that wasn't really a game late in the fourth quarter. At Atlanta, they lost by 16. At OKC, they got destroyed. They were down by 40. They haven't played in these close road games, close game, hostile environment. And at some point in April, May, maybe June, the Cavs are going to have to deal with this situation. And I think it's better for them in the long run to have dealt with this situation a little more often than they have. They haven't been put in hostile environments in close games. Now, to their credit, they haven't allowed a lot of environments to become hostile because they've done such a great job of taking crowds out of games, of burying teams when they do get a lead and not allowing home teams to fight back. But I think that this is something that it doesn't hurt to see the Cavs operate in this situation. Could their late game execution have been better? Absolutely. Did not love the late game offense. Obviously, the Garland free throw stuff. But when the playoffs arrive, is every game going to look like this? No, it's not. But there are going to be more games than not that do look like this on the road. It's a really difficult thing to go on the road in the NBA, especially when you get into the month of May. I'm not necessarily even talking about the first round here against whoever the Cavs might draw. but it's a really difficult thing in the NBA to go on the road and win road postseason games. Really, really hard to do. How many times have we seen the Cavs do it in the last couple of years? Once. They won one road postseason game in the last 3 series that they've played. It's a really challenging thing to do. I think the more often this group has this opportunity to do it, the better they will. The better they will be when the playoffs arrive. Now, of course, it would be better for them to win a couple of these games, but just the experience of it. Like when they go to, when they go to Miami next week, that could be another opportunity to be in, I don't know what the environment's going to look like, and I don't know what that Miami Heat team is going to look like, but that could be another opportunity. When they go to Detroit on the second night of a back-to-back coming up in a couple of weeks, that could be another spot that's like this, where it's a young, energetic team that's really getting its first taste of success. And the Cavs going there and maybe playing in a close game in the fourth quarter could be a really good experience for them. They go to Boston again. That could be another one. By time they go to New York the last week of the season, they could have the 1 seed wrapped up and that game might not matter. So the Cavs getting this experience, I do think if you want to spin this game into a positive, other than saying, well, the Cavs lost because a lot of uncharacteristic things happened, because they missed a lot of good shots, because Darius Garland missed free throws, and just things that normally don't happen to the Cavs on Wednesday night. If you want to look at it that way, fine. I don't think you're wrong. But I also think you can look at it as the Cavs got some good experience, and the Cavs are going to be able to learn from this and grow through this in a way. And also, let's not forget too, with this loss, I think this game looks much, much different if Evan Mobley plays. I don't know if he's been the second best player, the third best player, maybe the first best player on this team this year, but I know he's been one of those. I know how vital he has been to this team's success. And I just think that adding him to this team in this situation, like if he plays, Cavs might win this game by 10 or 15 points. I just think it looks like a much different game, particularly on the rebounding aspect. I don't know that, Houston has as many offensive rebounds and second chance points as they do, but the fact that this team still went through this experience and really fought back too, right? Like they were down by 11 points, I believe, in the second half. They fought back. They go on a 19-0 run. They came together in that moment. I think that is an important thing to see. You want to see the team fight. You want to see them have resiliency. You want to see them battle until the end of the game on a night when really it wasn't their night. Like a lot of things went wrong. Some of them controllable, some of them uncontrollable. The fact that they still found a way to make this a game, even if it does feel like a game that you saw them, I don't want to say hand to the Rockets, because the Rockets did a lot of good things too. But even if it's a game where you feel like, man, the Cavs probably should have won that one, for a good 3 quarters of this game, it didn't necessarily feel like that. I think it's very much recency bias because the Cavs had such a good fourth quarter until the final 60 seconds of it. But I think that having this type of experience is something that the Cavs can now kind of draw back to. And they don't have a ton of experience like this. And of course, winning road games in blowout fashion is awesome for that team. It's awesome that they are able to just destroy so many teams. And they've gone into some really tough places to play, like going into Minnesota, not an easy place to play. Going into Golden State, not an easy place to play. Denver, really difficult place to play. Going into those places and destroying teams has obviously been a really positive thing about this team. But I think if you want to look forward, and if this is a team that continues to talk about building habits and going through the process and doing things the right way, this is part of that process building. This is part of building habits of executing down the stretch in a road environment that's difficult to play in, because they haven't had to do that a ton this year. They're going to have to do it more in the future. Maybe they'll have to do it more in the second half of the season. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I do think that ultimately, even though they lost this game, even though Darius Garland missed 5 free throws, even though they shot 31% from 3, even though they had a bad offensive game, even though it feels like a win slipped through their fingers, I think you can make this into a bit of a positive. Again, if the Cavs were, say the Cavs were 4 games worse than they are right now, like say their lead over Boston was only 2 games at the moment instead of 6 games at the moment, and the Celtics are still playing against the Clippers as I record this right now, so I don't know what happens in that game. The lead could be back up to 6.5, or it could be 5.5. I don't know. But if that lead was like 2 and maybe 1.5 at the end of the night, you might feel a little bit differently about this, and that'd be fine. But the fact that they've built such a big cushion, I think it allows for them to have these learning lessons come in a loss every once in a while, as opposed to a win. Okay. I have spent enough time not talking about it. We have to talk about the way that this game was officiated. I don't want to be the guy that talks about officiating, but I think what happened on Wednesday night calls for some conversation about officiating. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are. So we're going to do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Live events are the best, aren't they? Right? Like I've talked about what that crowd might have been like in Houston, even if a lot of fans maybe couldn't make it to the game on Wednesday night at Toyota Center because it snowed in Houston, and that is not a city that is necessarily equipped to deal with snow. But I bet you probably could have got tickets to that game for a pretty reasonable price if you just would have gone to Game Time, scrolled through it, clicked on Game Time picks, and saw all the best deals that filter out all the fluff and only show you the incredible deals on great seats. I bet all the seats there were great. I bet all the deals for that game were incredible. Maybe you want to go see the Rockets on Saturday. Maybe that's what you want to do. Well, if you want to do that when they're in town here in Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, Game Time is the place to go. So what you need to do, like I said, check out that Game Time pick section there because they've got incredible deals. They filter out the fluff. Only going to show you the best stuff. That's what we want. We don't want the fluff. We want the best stuff. And that's what Game Time is going to do for you. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. If you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. So we've got to talk about the way this game was officiated because this was a game that I think was a little inconsistent. I thought it was incredibly physical, which I'm fine with it being incredibly physical, but I do think that one of the jobs of the officiating crew is to control things a little bit and to do it a little bit better than James Williams and his crew did on Wednesday night at Toyota Center because Alperen Sengun is a fantastic player for the Rockets, right? I also don't think I've seen a player use his elbows as forcefully as Sengun did in this game. In a single game. And he's somebody like that is part of his game. And that's fine. But I thought that it was kind of taken to a new level. Like Jarrett Allen's ribs, if I had to bet, going to be real sore when he wakes up Thursday morning. I thought that on one of Sengun's last, I think it was his last attempt from the floor, like he just put the point of his elbow right in Dean Wade's chest. And that happened over and over and over again. And I think part of the problem with that not being called an offensive foul, at least early on, is it leads to the player, and this is how a player should operate here. What can I get away with? How far can I push the envelope? And that ultimately can lead to something bad happening. And what happened that was bad? Well, of course, what happened that was bad was Jarrett Allen was shoved down blatantly, and it was not called a technical foul. It was not called a flagrant foul. I don't know how. And this was a play that goes to review, and it was deemed to be not unsportsmanlike. And that to me was one of the most game is that this play happened. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the play on the screen right now. If you're listening, you know exactly what play I'm talking about. But that this play happened where Sengun makes the basket and then just very blatantly shoves Jarrett Allen to the ground, and it was deemed sportsmanlike. Like that to me was stunning. I could not believe that happened. And then a couple of possessions later, Jarrett Allen was whistled for a loose ball foul. And in reality, it was a foul. Like when the last 2-minute report comes out later today, that's going to be a correct call. And it was a correct call. But the issue there is if so much physicality is allowed in other areas of the game, it's a bummer to me to see the game decided because that happened with like 5.5 seconds left. It's a bummer to see the game decided when a game was allowed to be so physical and that wasn't a foul all night, and then it's a foul in the final 10 seconds. And I'm of the schooling, if it's a foul, it's a foul. but it should be a foul the whole time, not in certain parts of the game. And it felt to me as if that wasn't necessarily always the case. And I just thought that some of those things were, I guess the best way I can sum this up, I thought it was really ironic that when Darius Garland's foot got slid underneath on that closeout, that's a flagrant foul. And by the letter of the law, that is a flagrant foul, and that call was correct. But when Sengun does what he does to Jarrett Allen, it's sportsmanlike. It's just a little weird to me. Again, the Cavs didn't lose this game because of the officiating. They lost this game because they shot 31% from three. They lost this game because they played poor defense, in my opinion, in the first and third quarters. They lost this game because Darius Garland had an uncharacteristic night from the free throw line. But I thought that the way they ended up down the stretch made for this to be a little bit more hectic and chaotic than it should have been. And instead of the game, the focus of this game being on two really good teams, two of the four best teams in the NBA right now. I think the Rockets have the fourth best record. Instead of the focus being on that, it's unfortunately going to be a little bit on the officials. And that's just a bit of a bummer. But thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today. Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs. And also, bit of an announcement here. I've got a special guest coming on tomorrow. Cavaliers assistant coach Jordan Ott, front of the bench guy, coming on. We talk Cavs for about 20 minutes tomorrow's episode. I sat down with him on Wednesday. Very excited for you guys to be able to hear that. But again, Jordan Ott, Cavs assistant, has worked with Kenny Atkinson for a very long time in his career. We talked about the Cavs for about 20 minutes. That's going to be on tomorrow's show. So make sure you're subscribed everywhere because this is going to be an episode that you don't want to miss. So, like I said, subscribe everywhere, and I will see you tomorrow with my conversation with Jordan Ott.